We are joined now by Goldman's lawyer, Patricia Apy, and New Jersey Congressman Chris Smith, who made the trip with David Goldman to Brazil. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning, Meredith.
Let me start with you, Patricia. You worked so tirelessly to get these two reunited. Seeing them now together, how does that make you feel?
It's remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable. It does. It encourages you, but then it also inspires me to think about the other children that I have on the list that queue up to the top of the list, and we start to move in working on those
cases. And sure, and the other parents were probably calling you saying, what about my happy ending?
Every child who has been abducted deserves the same kind of care and concern that Sean Goldman has been provided, and getting to that point is really the next step.
Congressman Smith, you were with David, as I said before, in Brazil. You said goodbye to them both as they took off. What was going through your mind when you saw them board that plane?
Oh, I was absolutely thrilled, especially when they got to the top of the steps, and both David and his son Sean turned around with a big smile on their faces and waved to Karen Gustafson, who was from the embassy, and myself, and we were waving, you know, like children back to them. We were so happy and filled with joy. It was like mission accomplished in a way that, especially on Christmas Eve, as David said, it was a miracle from God.
And such a difficult mission to accomplish, in part because both Brazil and the United States have signed the Hague Convention, which is supposed to prevent this sort of thing from happening, and yet it seems to have failed so clearly in this case. Congressman Smith, why is that? Why is the convention a failure?
Well, the convention itself is not a failure. It's the implementation on the part of governments. There is no effective mechanism for enforcement, which is why I've introduced the International Child Abduction Act, Prevention Act of 2009, to give real tools, a real means by which the President and the Secretary of State can say to countries that are either complicit with abduction or indifferent, like Brazil, like Japan, okay, if you do this to American children and left behind American parents, we will impose sanctions. We will limit our foreign aid, except for humanitarian aid. We will hold back on loans. We have a series of 18 specific actions prescribed in the legislation to say we're not playing games. Human rights matter. These are American people, dads, moms, and children whose human rights here in America are being violated in many cases with impunity. And David's case has not only helped David, but all the left-behind parents and their children have been given fresh hope, fresh impetus to fight on. They broke David's heart, but they did not break his spirit. It was indomitable.
Congressman, you introduced that legislation back in June. Where does it stand at this point?
Well, it has been referred to several committees. The Foreign Affairs Committee is the primary committee of jurisdiction. My hope is, and I would call on the Speaker, I would call on my good friend Steny Hoyer and others in the Democrat side and the Republican side to mark up this bill now. There's no reason for delay. It has been, we fashioned it after a bill that I wrote back in 2000 called the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, the purpose of which was to combat modern-day slavery, sex trafficking, and labor trafficking. The key to the success of that law back in 2000 are the sanctions. If you do not hold countries to account, this is country to country. It is not a matter, this is abduction. And if the legal system, the executive branch, the law enforcement agencies drop the ball, we need to hold them accountable for what they're doing to American families. Otherwise, it is the David versus Goliath story times 2800 all over again, over the world.
And very quickly, Patricia, what is going on with the family in Brazil? Is it over now? Can they continue to appeal in any way there to get this boy back, or is it done?
The litigation in Brazil is completely done. My hope is that the family will reach out to us and we'll immediately work on the circumstances for visitation and make sure that there's no other room for conflict involving the family.
Okay, and at this point they are saying, in fact, that you're not giving any leeway there. So.
Every reporter in Brazil has my phone number, so I know that they know how to get to me.
Patricia and Congressman Smith, thank you so much.